Y'all want to go ahead and get started? This presentation is only going to last a couple of hours, so we'll be some of the last ones to leave today, and I'm good about that. I love to talk, but my name is Eric Jones. I am a community college department chair over horticulture, over all the trades, but horticulture is my passion. I have been coming to the Green and Grow since I was probably 5 or 6 years old. And I'm 52 years old now, so does anybody have as many years coming to this trade show as I do? I was drugged here as a little boy, with my parents, and we dreaded January. We knew when Christmas came that the Green and Grow was going to be here. Green and Growin was coming right afterwards. And we came for our trick-or-treat session, if y'all know what I mean. Going to all of the vendors and getting the candy and the pens and the pencils, and we loved it. And so I followed in my father and mother's footsteps. They started their business in 1977, and I was worked tremendously hard as a youngster. So I know all about pulling weeds out of containers and doing all kinds of stuff like that in their landscape nursery. And then while they did elite landscape service in nursery. So both my parents are graduates of the horticulture program that I teach at Forsyth Tech Community College. So I'm very, very proud of that. And this is our third or fourth time speaking here, but it's the first time that I am speaking without either of my parents here. So my father passed away 2 years ago, and I appreciate the North Carolina Nursery and Landscape Association doing a big write-up about him in Nursery Notes. And like I said, my mother's not doing so well, so she was unable to attend. But my lovely wife is here, my business partner, my best friend. I could not do this without her. She is my number one support. So thank you, Jennifer, for being here. And we're going to talk about natural pest controls. And do y'all want me to be dry and boring, or do you want me to be upbeat, lifted, and getting everybody bouncing, okay? Because I've been to some classes, right, that everybody's like, well, as you see here on the slide, or I can be my natural self, which is 100% full of energy. My wife can't stand it because I don't even want to go to sleep at night. What's my motto, sweetie? I'll sleep when I'm dead. I absolutely love the green industry and so thankful to be a part of it. But I love talking pesticides. I do, but I also love talking about these little natural things that we can use in our landscape, in our greenhouse, in our nursery, whatever it is that we are doing, we can use these natural pest controls. But I do love the safe use of pesticides, and I'm doing a class tomorrow on the safety of pesticides. But we will talk about what are natural pest controls. We will identify them. What are they? We will identify what pests are. And these guys may not necessarily be pests in certain situations, but definitely in others. We will also identify how we can use these natural controls, how we can use them, and exactly what they are. So that is this course simplified. So what is a pest? What is a pest? And can somebody give me a definition? I'm afraid I might fall off. I better not keep walking. I'm too energetic. But a pest is any destructive or troublesome insect, weed, microorganism, or pathogen. And really, it can be anything. But somebody give me an example of what a pest. Let's make it simple. What can be a plant that can be a pest in one situation, but a welcomed guest in others? Okay. So where is it welcomed? Some people like it in a tea. Okay. And it is edible. It is one of those things you can eat. Yeah. So good example. One of my favorite examples is Bermuda grass, right? I mean, come on. I love watching golf. I hate playing golf. I deal with turf grass every single day. So when I get a day off, I'm not going to be walking on it, right? I'm going to be by the pool, not on a golf course. But I do like to watch golf, and I love watching football and baseball. They play on Bermuda grass, but, our customers, we're primarily tall fescue. And so that is when Bermuda grass becomes a pest. So it depends on the situation. There are 4 types. We got our weeds, we got our disease, we got our bugs, and we got our little animals with backbones. Probably one of my favorite classes I ever took was vertebrate biology. And I did love that class. But how in the world can we call this little guy in the bottom right corner a pest? You know? Well, when we see it running across the kitchen floor at night, right? That's when it's a pest. But my little girls, when they were growing up, they had one in a little fish bowl and played with it and all that. So it wasn't a pest at that time. But even our insects, I love these guys. I'll pick any insect up. I want to play with it. I want to learn about it. It is just one of my favorite things. But they can be a nuisance. They can be a pest. Huh? You have a lot of moles? Voles. I have them both. Yeah. Yeah. We used to until I got a Labrador Retriever. That was my natural pest control for those things. Yeah, and cats. Yeah, yeah. So even back in the day when we couldn't go after them, the law didn't say that the black lab couldn't go and get them, could they? They'd bring them, drop them at the back door. Here, Daddy, here's a present. That's a good way to aerate, right? All right, so we got some pest differences. We've got continuous, nearly always present, require regular control. Sporadic, you know, it's going to happen on occasion, can require control once in a while. What about potential? Pests not under normal conditions, but can require control under certain circumstances. And I kind of filter back to that Bermuda grass. Hey, it's potentially, if I got a warm season client right beside a cool season client, which we do in Winston-Salem, that there is potential for that warm season to move over to my tall fescue client, which is cool season. What about continuous? What about crabgrass, right? Everybody's getting ready to do that first round application coming up. Do y'all ever want them to get that chemical that will kill crabgrass for 100% and eradicate it? No, it's a moneymaker, right? I hate looking at it like that, but we get 2 applications out of it, and we're always having to do repair from it, so it is a big moneymaker in turf grass. So what is the pesticide? And some of you farmers and nursery people might think a little bit different when it comes to this. But it's any substance that is used to kill a pest or prevent or reduce the damage that it may cause, right? We're not talking about diesel fuel, guys. We're talking about actual stuff but can diesel fuel be a pesticide? Well, if we're using it to kill something, anything that's used to kill something, is it? It just may not be legal to do that. I always think about this. When my grandmother died, we went through the barns and stuff, and my dad, he could tell what any pesticide was. He could open up. Y'all remember when pesticides come in glass jars? That tells you how old I am, right? He'd open the jar and smell it because the label done peeled off and stuff. And Dad, we shouldn't be doing that. That's probably what got him. Because he didn't wear PPE and none of that stuff, and what he sprayed was a lot more dangerous than what we do today in turf grass. But God rest his soul, I love that man. Miss him every day. It's hard coming to places like this, and I still see images of him. We were at Equip Expo in Kentucky, and I just stopped. Jennifer said, "What's wrong?" I said, "Baby, I thought I saw my dad," because me and Dad went for years together. And so it's good to be back and to see his friends. And I don't know how many of y'all, thank you for coming up to me and saying, "Eric, your dad was a great guy. We miss him." A lot of y'all have already done that, so we appreciate that. But goals of pest management, we want to prevent it, suppress it, or eradicate it. Sometimes we definitely want to eradicate it if it's a new invading species, but sometimes we don't want to get rid of all the bugs. That means all the good guys get up and leave because they ain't got nothing to eat. But with prevention, yeah, we're doing that first round applications here in the next few weeks. Suppression, we're going to keep it to acceptable levels. Now that's something we got to talk to our clients about. What is their acceptable level? They may not know. How many of y'all have clients now that don't want you to show up even with Roundup? We have them right. They freak out. They see you with a backpack on. They do not want any chemicals sprayed in that lawn. But yet the Orkin man pulls up and they're going inside and spraying inside the house. But they don't want me outside with Roundup killing weeds. It's just the way it is. people's mentality. So you got to find out, what is it they are going to tolerate? And that's the whole thing when it comes to integrated pest management. What is their tolerance level? We've got clients that'll fire us for that one dandelion in their turf, and then others don't care. You know, Eric, they'll ask me, say, Eric, what do we need to do about this yard? I'm like, I don't know, it's up to you. I said, we can spray everything on it. You got some clover coming up. Well, I don't want to kill the clover. Why? Well, blooms once a week, stays green all summer. I love it. So that is where we got to find out with our clients. You got to talk to them. See what it is that they will tolerate and not tolerate. So pests or guests, it is the human social context in which the organisms exist that determines whether the population is a pest or not. It's almost always the size of the population, not merely the presence of an individual organism, that matters to humans. But I can think of two that people freak out of. What are they? Yeah, roach. Yeah, people freak out about that. Yeah. What give me, huh? Bats, rats. Yeah. But I'm still thinking two more. Two that are really actually good for us in the green industry. Spiders. Spiders. I love spiders. And what's the other one? Snakes, right. Yeah, you see a spider or you see a snake, you're going to freak out. Bats, you're going to see, you know, several of them flying off, but bats are good. What's their favorite food? Skeeters. That's right. But people don't want bats. They don't want a bat house put in a neighborhood or anything like that because they're afraid of what they might do, but they're eating all the mosquitoes. Spiders, you know, look at what they do for the environment. So, is the damage tolerable? I don't know. You got to ask it. What about a few fleas on the family dog? It's going to happen, right? You can put spray on the back of his neck, collar, whatever. He's still probably going to get one or two. What about fleas in the carpet? That's a bigger problem, right? What about a cockroach in the cabinet or one crawling on the floor? What's the difference there? One, you see it, but I can promise you, it don't matter what income level you're at. I can go in a house and I can find a cockroach. She don't want to hear that, but baby, there's cockroaches. They're in every house. They really are. And I can go and find them. The problem is when you see one running across the floor, that means there's too many of them, right? And that means he's looking for somewhere else to go. He's been kicked out. Total eradication is virtually impossible and undesirable. Kills the natural pest enemies. It upsets the broader ecological balance. However, is warranted, again, like I said, with new invading species. You want to leave a few of the bad guys around so it gives the good guys something to snack on. So obviously when we look at all living organisms, we are including the subset of organisms we regard as pests. So what is natural pest control? In layman terms, what is it? It is pest control without interference from humans. We are not implementing any tactics to get rid of them. So it's basically, it occurs in nature without any prompting from humankind. But what do we do as humans? Huh? We interfere. We mess up everything, don't we? Remember when we first got email? Yeah, we couldn't wait to get home and check that email. Right now, every time it goes off, I'm just like, God, another email. How many of y'all were happy Verizon went down the other day? A lot of people were complaining. I was like, yeah, my phone stopped ringing for 2 or 3 hours. But we're going to mess it up. And we need to figure out how we can reestablish the effects. This is going to take a little bit of studying. And what's the first thing we got to do with IPM, Integrated Pest Management? Well, we got to visit the site. We can't just come up with this predetermined schedule of treatments, right? We got to visit the site. We got to see what's going on. We got to see what bugs are there. We got to see what diseases are happening. And once we see it, maybe we can use some of these natural controls to our benefit. Now, granted, in greenhouse situations, it's probably a lot easier to do some of this versus someone's big open landscape. What are these little parasitic wasps going to do? They're going to probably fly off just like the lady beetles, but you know, there's other things that we can do. So, understanding the natural principles will help you tremendously in managing pest problems. Furthermore, these concepts are critical to the development of a successful IPM program. So how many of y'all have implemented an IPM program with some of your clients or even at your own property? Couple? It's pretty cool, right? You know, does it eliminate the use of a pesticide? When would we use a pesticide in an IPM program? The last resort, exactly. The very last thing. We're going to try other things. But we got to tell our client, hey, we may have to use a chemical if these things don't work. But when you start talking that to a client, hey, we don't have to use pesticides. Yeah, it's you know, they're gonna bite it. They're gonna want to hire you to do that. Now, is their yard going to be as pretty? Well, let's take turf grass example. You know, is there organic lawn care? Yes, but is it going to be as pretty as using the synthetic products? No. Yeah. Was my grass green, or was my grass not as green as his? Well, we're using better stuff. But it's a matter of choice, and a lot of people, when they do hear IPM and what it entails, are willing to pay for it, especially the ones that do not want to see you walking around with a backpack sprayer. All right, so look at crabgrass. 2,000 can produce 2,000 seeds per square foot in a single season, right? Nasty little stuff, but it's a moneymaker, right? But in IPM, what's one of the things we can do to prevent the spread of that none of our mowing crews take the time to do? Clean the equipment, right? Take that backpack blower, blow off the deck, underneath it, tires, and you know, how many of y'all know how to use a weed eater? A few of us in here, I grew up doing that. You know, my first one was a bent shaft because I was a short little kid growing up, but Dad said, you're gonna do something, boy. And but you get it all over you, right? You get all them seeds and you go to the next yard, they're falling off. That's how we can prevent a lot of it. We carry a lot of it from yard to yard. About the common housefly. This is a cool little statistic. These guys right here can lay 600 eggs, which mature in about 6 days in hot weather. So what do you think is going to happen in 6 days? Them 600 are going to have babies, and then 6 days later, and them babies are going to be born. So if you get out your phone and you do 600 times 6 times 6, yeah, you can figure out real quick how many flies can reproduce. Well, what would happen if there was no natural pest controls for the flies? The common house fly. Huh? Would be a fly cookbook. Yeah. And what are some natural controls for that besides mama's fly swatter? Birds, yeah. But what? Lizards? Well, what's going to happen? Given that reproductive rate, a pair of original flies, guys, could eventually lead to a layer of flies thousands of feet thick around the entire planet in one summer. We wouldn't be here, would we? We'd be like walking through them. But this hasn't happened because of natural controls. Natural controls. So why is it not happening? Because of natural control. Well, what are some of them? The most important ones are climate and weather, food and habitat, pathogens, predators, parasites. All of these help reduce that fly population. They help reduce a lot of things. And y'all know here in North Carolina, where else in the world can you experience all 4 seasons in one day? All right. There's a t-shirt in Boone. We got 2 of our daughters up at Boone. There was a t-shirt up here. Where else in the world can you see it? I'm like, well, that kind of applies all to North Carolina. Who's ready for that snow coming in this weekend? Yeah. Think about it. Everybody's out there trying to call back to the shop, get the plows loaded up, pre-treats, all that going on. And this is one of the first times, like, I remember how many times did it snow at Green Growin before? And people just disappear because they got to go push snow. So, I don't know, we're calling for like 22 inches here is what the latest I've heard. That is crazy. That is crazy. Even more down towards Raleigh. We were just talking to the irrigation board out there, and they were saying like 30-some inches in Raleigh. That is going to shut down North Carolina, right? So it's back in. Was okay, 20 inches back then? Right before COVID, wasn't it? That all happened, that big snow, 2000. But I remember before Christmas, before COVID, I can't remember, was it 2019? We had about 12 inches or something like that, 18. So that was crazy. I mean, it shut down everything. You know, we missed a full week at college right before Christmas break. And that's hard teaching landscape design students. But food and habitat. Hey, just simply removing the food source is a good thing. And then we can use the pathogens. I mean, there's grass seed laced with a fungus to help with some of these turf grass insects. And look, I must be that bored and they leaving. See, I'll call you out if you leave. And you know what? They're at my college. So yeah, they were former students. They're like, hey, I've heard this lecture, I'm gonna leave. But even the predators, and even these, my wife, she laughs at me when I say this word, but parasites, always called it, growing up, I called it parasitoids. And like, I guess I just talk too fast. I can't slow down to talk, but these creatures are awesome to see them actually inject their eggs inside of like an aphid and hatch with inside. I mean, Mother Nature, boy, she's tough. You know, I'm glad I'm born a human. But let's examine all of these in detail. So what's the difference between the two? Climate and weather. Climate's the long-term overview of temperature and humidity changes in a region. Weather is the local and short-term variation in climate. So again, our weather's changing, right? We had some warm days. I was in short sleeve t-shirt all last week, which I am most of the time, right? But that's just me. I run hot. But it's cold out there now, so I put on long sleeve. But you'll never find me in a coat, will you, baby? Never. I can't stand it. I'm claustrophobic. What about these little guys right here? The tomato hornworm or mater hornworm. You know, they prefer, a warm summer, but it's all about the rain before that makes it whether or not we have a big outbreak or not. I learned something about these guys. We went to the pet store to get some dog food, and they were selling these guys 3 for $15 in the glass cage. Yes. I did not take pictures. I need to have that. But I'm like, why are y'all selling these things? I mean, y'all can come to my garden and get as many as you want free. But they were there selling them because of these little geckos and lizards that all the kids wanted to have as pets. That's their favorite food. So next time y'all got mater worms, just take them to the pet store. They'll buy them from you. But again, food and habitat. No food, no organisms, pests got to have something to eat. So the simplest non-toxic method of control can be limiting the pest's access to food. You know, we've seen people that they do have a roach problem. They kind of put their dog food bowl in like a little moat and stuff like that. But you get rid of their food, they're going to pack up and leave. Habitat, just as important. Ash aphid. This happened on the Modesto ash trees. It was a cool little story. The Modesto ash trees, people like pruning them like crepe myrtles. You know, they like crepe murdering. But we heard, what was Saturday? I was doing a seminar Saturday. They said, man, we can't call it crepe murder because you can't kill a crepe myrtle. So what did they call it? You remember? It was it was something like something like that. I can't remember. But he's like, man, you can cut the thing to the ground and it's going to come back, and it's true. But anyway, people would cut these Modesto ash trees back, and what happens with that? What happens when you top something like that? You get all this flush growth of stuff. You get this new herbaceous material that aphids absolutely love, right? And so they're going to do that. If you just go in and cut that sucker growth out, the aphids are going to leave. That's just common sense. They'll curl up in those leaves like that. You remove all that sucker growth at the bottom and through the tree, they're going to pack up and leave. But the aphids have 2 population peaks each season. This corresponds when nitrogen levels are the highest in their foliage. And that's at spring leaf unfold and fall leaf drop. So what else are we doing this time of year? Raking leaves, yeah. We've plugged and seeded. We've put out nitrogen at fall seeding, and also in the springtime, we're putting out nitrogen. Well, aphids got to have that nitrogen. They do. And they're just munching away when they have all of that. So, don't create more of a problem with your nitrogen applications if you do have the aphids. And how many of y'all seen it all over crepe myrtles? We cut back the crepe myrtles, they get that flush of growth, aphids cover them up, they get the black sooty mold, and then what else comes right after that? Ants. And then we get a little rain outside and people start complaining they got ants on their bathroom windows because the crepe myrtle's right outside of it. They're going to find a way to get into the dry. You see how we create a lot of our problems? But, like I said, when it comes to crepe murdering like that, what's the actual term for that? Topping? Yeah. Or what's the scientific name then? Yeah, we call it topping. What about? Or pollarding? Pollarding? Yeah. Our ancestors used to do that way back when. Why did they do that? They did it for a necessity. And what was the necessity? Kindling. Yes. Yeah. They needed that fire starter. But they would plant these trees right up against their houses, which were made out of homemade bricks. And so when they cut it back the first time, they've got all this wood and stuff, allow the sunlight to come through, hit that brick to help warm the house. Well, when you pollard something like that, then you get that flush of thick growth in the springtime, creates all that dense shade on the handmade bricks. So it helped cool the house. And then again, they had the kindling again next winter. So it is a scientific, well, actually at Wake Forest, where we're just down the street from, they teach a class in their biology class there at Reynolda Gardens where they're pollarding the trees there in the village and take their students out there and help do that. So what about pathogens? Well, it's going to happen when we get an overpopulation. We see that with deer now. How many of y'all remember traveling up to the mountains to go deer hunting and turkey hunting? I remember that. Even my dad talked about it. He's like, son, the only thing we could kill was a rabbit and squirrel, And then as we got a little bit older, we could do some deer hunting, but you had to go west of here. Now there's too many of them. Now disease is affecting the deer population. Well, when they have too many of them, they're going to get a resource depletion. They're going to start being malnutrition. They're going to compete for habitat. That's why so many of them, running across the road and stuff like that. It's just bad for them. But this has always led to disease and war in humans, right? When we compete for all of that right there. And it's sad that we do that. So plants and animals have long been doing this long before humans were around. And they'll be around a lot longer after the good Lord takes us home. So predators, critical in the suppression of natural populations of animals and plants. And together with pathogens and, how do we say that word again, y'all? Parasitoids, not parasitoids, parasitoids. Like I said, I get called out all the time. I start talking too fast. But they make up the wonderful world of biological control, which is cool. This is super, super cool. I love it. But predators, we got mammals, arthropods, microorganisms, free-living general feeders, right? They are munching away. They may eat a single prey at a meal, or they may consume many individuals like our ladybugs do. And that is so cool that we can use other creatures to get rid of other creatures. Predatory insects in the larval stage must consume several prey to attain maturity. So the adults lay their eggs in your populations of prey where the hatching young have a good chance of obtaining food. All right, so they got to eat. But spiders are the exception. What do? And again, don't kill a spider. Enjoy its beauty. Or if you see the web, just get rid of the web. Leave the animal alone because they are doing so much for us. They're going to lay that webbing in places that are going to attract the bad bugs. So leave them alone. And there's only four poisonous, 2 in North Carolina, ain't it? But even in the United States, we got the brown recluse and the black widow. Yes, get rid of them. You don't want them in your bed sheets. But the other ones, get rid of them. Put them outside and leave them be. So what's the difference between the parasite and the, what word is that again? All right, look, I'm trying to wake y'all up. Really? Do y'all hear that? Who is it? Point your neighbor out if they fall asleep. I'm gonna slow it down. I can drag this on to 6 o'clock. Y'all want to? We'll do half a credit for an hour. Is that worth it? No. But what is the difference? And which is more effective? Huh? Parasites? Yeah, you got the pinworm. It really ain't gonna kill you, it ain't gonna kill anything, but they can debilitate it. When it comes to their partner, they are the unsung heroes of naturally occurring insect control. They're too small to notice, they have no common names, and them scientific names are way too long and difficult to even pronounce. Kind of like, I teach plant materials at the college too. Y'all know this old redneck voice has a very hard time speaking Latin terms when it comes to these plants, okay? I'm sitting there on Google, the little speaker hitting it so she'll say the word before class. I'm only kidding. But again, like I said, these names are too long, and there is no common names for these bugs. They are members of the insect order with bees and wasps, and they are host specific. They are restricted in the number of species that they can attack. So they're not a buy it once and it's going to take care of all your problems. And look at that. You have the parasitic wasp injecting or laying the eggs inside the aphid. And if you ever look underneath, microscope or whatever, and you see that little black hole, that means that the parasitic wasp laid the eggs in it. They hatched inside of it, and they ate the aphid from the inside out. So horrible way to die, right? But these parasitic wasps, they got plenty of food, they're warm inside that belly, and they reproduce. So how does natural controls work? They actually work all the time. So why do some pest populations grow so large that they become a problem? Well, 2 examples. House plants being set outside. We bring our plants in when it gets cold. They start getting all the bugs and stuff that are inside and the disease and everything. But as soon as we set them outside, right? We get that first warm day in spring and we start moving stuff outside. They kind of perk up. They're happy. We took them out of their natural element. House plants are tropicals, right? They want that hot, sunny weather. But what about the California oak moth? This is one of my favorite stories to tell. But they were being... the California oaks were being defoliated by the oak moth. Either in 1 or 2 seasons, they would come in, they would completely defoliate the oak trees. And believe it or not, Californians wanted a pesticide used to kill these oak moths. That's hard to believe, right? Or they wanted their trees cut down. And it took a couple ag agents to really investigate this and to see what the oak moth was doing. They came only during the dry season, and they would defoliate the oak trees. So that actually helped the oak trees. They didn't lose any water, right? So they would defoliate it. So we weren't losing water, but what did the moths do as they ate? Poop, yeah. Just like me, right? Every time I eat and go to the bathroom, right? So come on, guys. I'm trying to lighten y'all up because there are some heads nodding pretty hard. Y'all need sea collars on to sit in this class. But anyway, but they would have the manure at the bottom of the tree. And when the rains came back, we had a natural fertilize, and these trees looked outstanding. So it takes a little bit of research, a little bit of investigating to see what Mother Nature is doing, and she was actually protecting those trees. Don't cut them down. Don't spray a pesticide. And we need to learn about these fluctuations that are part of a natural cycle of events in their ecosystems. And we have to adjust our aesthetic opinions and reactions accordingly. We've all had that client, right? They call and say, Eric, what's wrong with my plant? And you go and look at it and you're like, well, it needs full sun. You've got it in deep shade. Well, Mrs. Smith up the streets looks outstanding. Well, again, like I said, hers is in full sun. We create some of these micro little climates on our properties, or the homeowner does, and they wonder why some of their plants aren't thriving. Most of our serious pest problems arise through accidental and occasionally deliberate but misguided introduction of exotic species. All right. Well, a lot of the stuff I wouldn't have believed were actually introduced to the good old USA. But that indoor cockroach came over on the boats too with the Pilgrims. Gypsy moth, Jap beetle, Mediterranean fruit fly, Dutch elm disease, chestnut blight, evening dandelions, right? And then kudzu. Why did we bring kudzu over here? Railroad, erosion. Yeah, the railroad wanted it for erosion. It's just taking over, right? And, the only thing to get rid of is goats, Remember, y'all, there used to be a company called Goatscapes. They'd bring them out and they'd eat it all up. When we breed plants to satisfy human desires, we sometimes destroy traits that discourage insects. The old-timey roses, they're doing a lot better than some of the hybrids. London plane tree, if we plant it in a place that it's not favorable, and anthracnose is going to be a problem for it. So we've got to know our plants. How many of y'all are certified plant professionals in here? You know what? Everybody raise that hand, right? Everybody should raise that hand. We have to know our plants, guys. And I love it. I see so many landscape contractors, get called out by their clients. They go to the property, and Miss Smith is talking about her plants out there. And she's like, all right, landscaper, this plant out here, what's going on with it? Well, Miss Smith, that's a boxwood. It ain't a boxwood. It's an Ilex crenata compacta. Just because it's been rounded off with the hedge clippers don't mean it's a boxwood, okay? So guys, we got to know our plant materials. Once we know our plant materials, we can know the habitat that it lives in. We can know the diseases that gets affected by it, the insects. It starts with plant ID. And the North Carolina Nursery and Landscape Association has the certified plant professionals study it, take it, and be proud to have that behind your name. We must thoroughly investigate how we can maintain natural controls when altering plants or combining plant materials from different environments. You ever see landscape designs drawn from an architect in Denver, Colorado for a design going in here in North Carolina? All the time, don't we? And we're like, how in the world do y'all do that? But they get the contract to do all of the fast food restaurants across the country, and plants are different out there in Colorado than they are here. Even in Florida. I mean, it's you need to have somebody to that location know the plants, and you can't start mixing them. We see plants that love water planted with plants that need to be in a xeriscape guarding. It just happens. Again, it goes back to knowing our plant materials. All right, I talk way too fast. So I'm sorry. So we got some questions. We got some times. Take a picture of this QR code. That'll get you all the information to the classes and webinars that Jennifer and I do throughout the year. It also will take you to our podcast that we do every single day. We record a podcast every morning from 8 to 9 on Turf's Up Radio, and then immediately put it to the podcast. And we talk about things like this, or how to deal with being married to a landscaper. Okay? My poor wife, yes, she gets mad at me because all I want to do is work. I love the green industry, guys, and what an amazing life this has been, amazing career for me, other than serving Uncle Sam. I love both the Navy and the Army. I was lucky enough to serve both. And so 17 years of combined federal service until I got hurt and they kicked me out. But lucky for y'all wouldn't be hearing me stand up here if the Army hadn't kicked me out 7 years ago. So, but I do. I love the green industry. I love the fact that I was born into it. And give a big thanks to the North Carolina Nursery and Landscape Association. Have they not put on a tremendous event this year? 100%. And that was some good chicken at lunch. How many of y'all had the chicken at lunch and got to hear Dr. Knuth? That was awesome. Do you guys have any questions? I can talk IPM. I can talk anything y'all want to. I feel like I know a little bit about everything and not enough on one thing. So, but I'm not your role model, I'm your failure model. I can tell you exactly not how to do it before I can tell you how to do it, and I'm proud to say that, okay? Because I learned more from my failure models than I ever did my role models. The guys and gals that come up to me and said, hey, Eric, don't make this mistake in your business. Because being a business owner is tough these days. It really is. All the hired help issues that we got to deal with. But you know, I'm at Forsyth Tech Community College. You guys are more than welcome to come and visit my classes anytime you want to get introduced to the students, to see if they are a fit for your program. I know I've helped out a couple landscape contractors down here from Wilmington that my students actually moved and are still working there 8-9 years later. So it's been a good fit. I want to know each and every one of you on a personal level. That way I can introduce you to the students that I know would be a good fit. We have students that want to go in the nursery business, the greenhouse business. Very few that actually want to work for a landscape contractor. More of our students are into the botanical gardening side of the house or the nursery greenhouse side, and even some of the farming. My contact information, again, is on that QR code. You can call me anytime. You can set up an appointment to visit us at the college and talk to my students and hire them. That's my number one goal, is to get you guys some good employees. So, any questions, comments, concerns, making fun of me?
How do you keep the new generation off the phone?
You're not. So turn it around and say, hey, take pictures of the job site and post it. I learned that with my nephew. He always stayed on his phone. He did work for us. He's quit us like 6 times and come back. So he'll be back when spring, startup rush or whatever. But I was like, Ethan, what are you on your phone? I'm taking a picture, Uncle E, of the job site. Well, then I started noticing his buddies liking the post and stuff. And once you get a connection to a young man, 21, 22 years old, you've got access to his friends. Our son, Jared, he'll be 22 in February. If we really needed help, he could find us employees. It's just, you've got to coach them. You've got to coddle them. You can't hurt their feelings. You got to give them attaboys and pats on the back and make them feel good about the work that they're doing. But you can find them. So I always say I babysit my employees and I have to babysit our clients. We're trying to make 2 different sets of people happy, and that can be very stressful. So, all right. Anything else? All right, good deal. And you're only getting out 5 minutes early. Maybe there's still some banana pudding out there.